Mundus does not block collapse, cruelty, or failure, because all three still press back against what contains them. What it does not sustain is the moment when strain finishes settling, when nothing inside a shape argues with its own edges anymore. This is why stories persist of a last empire that ruled without dissent, and why those stories always end in disappearance rather than ruin. This distinction matters because inhabitants keep mistaking danger for endings, and endings for safety. When forces align strongly enough to suggest permanence, the world does not push them away, it simply stops holding them together. Without difference, movement thins, and what once felt solid loses weight and coherence. Old calendars record years when time itself was said to slow, remembered now as holy ages that left no ruins behind. That withdrawal looks like pressure returning, but it is only support leaving. Stability without internal resistance reads as completion, and completion leaves nothing for reality to answer. A system that can explain itself fully has no unanswered surface left to abrade against the world. There are temples whose final doctrine was carved once and never revised, now standing intact and empty, avoided rather than revered. From within, this does not feel like failure, which is why it is often misunderstood. Civilizations that attempt to finalize meaning rarely fall to enemies at first. They stop deforming under stress. Their laws cease to produce disputes, their myths stop splintering into variants, and their answers arrive too quickly. Pilgrims still repeat the tale of a city where no one argued, remembered only because no one remained to contradict it. At that point, asking who was wrong no longer applies, so the scale shifts. What is called erasure from afar feels like fulfillment from within. Completion removes cost, and removing cost dissolves consequence, and without consequence, memory cannot stay anchored. There is a common belief among mortals that perfection feels like relief, usually spoken by those who never returned from seeking it. This same logic governs attempts to escape consequence altogether. Shortcuts compress change faster than form can absorb, and the excess does not vanish. It relocates. The imbalance appears later, elsewhere, often in a place no one associates with the original act. Many cultures warn against borrowed miracles whose price is paid by grandchildren who never knew the debt existed. This conservation does not stop at lower misunderstandings. Harmony itself carries risk when it eliminates difference entirely. When distinction collapses, awareness folds inward, losing the boundary that lets it persist as something rather than everything. Ancient hymns speak of a time when all voices sang the same note, remembered as a silence so complete that even the memory of it fractured. This is why unity ends in thinning rather than ascent. Ambition, by contrast, is allowed to stretch and overreach because it keeps surfaces under tension. Expansion continues until it stabilizes, and only then does the support that made it possible recede. Every age has a legend of a conqueror who was undefeated and then simply stopped being followed, without rebellion or revolt. Nothing is struck down for wanting too much. What fails is the wanting once it resolves into certainty. When desire closes into assurance, motion ends, and the structure that depended on motion loses its footing. There are crafts that forbid mastering the final technique, claiming the last step causes the hands to forget their work. This reframes what progress looks like from inside Mundus. The world does not resist movement forward because movement creates new strain. It thins only when movement finishes, when questions stop generating further questions. That is why every age believes it stands at the end of history, and why history never seems to notice.